Hello everyone, this is Henry from Marketing Entre Dos Mundos, and in this episode we are going to talk with an amazing guest that I am really happy that he said to me yes to this invitation. He's an author of the Growth Hacking book, an ex-growth leader of big companies at DROPBOX, LogMeIn, growthhackers.com, and also if you want to talk and know about what growth hacking is, he's the guy, because he's the one who invented the word. And right now he's a worldwide keynote speaker that really spread the voice of the growth hacking methodology around it. Right now he has a very good class and simulator that I am doing about growth hacking, and we are going to talk about that later. I'm talking about, obviously, about Sean Ellis. So Sean, really thank you to have you here for the first time from the Latin America community and the Spanish people that really want to know what growth hacking is.
Thank you, Henry. I'm excited to be on here with you.
Thank you. So as I say before we started, we're really happy to hear from the guy who really invented the word, what growth hacking is. Because, for example, I want to start from the beginning. If you know, so many people in this side of the world, from the Spanish people and the community of Latin Americans, they confuse some about what really growth hacking is. Yeah. Some people say it's a topic, some people say that it's a process, some people say that it's a methodology, and some of them say that it's a trend. What is growth, Sean?
Yeah, so to me, I think it's important to go back to like the root of why did I even say there's something called growth hacking? Yes. Yeah, so for me, I was comparing it. I was working in startups, and I had several startup founders and CEOs tell me we need someone to help us build awareness for our product, and I always had to tell them, you don't have enough money to build awareness for your product. What you have to do is you have to grow customers on your product. And if you can get enough customers using your product, then over time you'll build good awareness. And so for me, it was really kind of contrasting, when they think about marketing, they think about kind of like marketing as it's taught in school, where awareness building, brand building are all like important components. And I think for some businesses, those are important components. But on the internet, for a startup, you can actually focus just on how do I acquire and retain users and convert those users and do it in a way that's profitable every step of the way. Yes. So sometimes you can do it through viral kind of growth ways where it's really profitable because you have really no acquisition cost on it. But even if it's paid marketing, you can do it to where you test something. If it works and gives you a positive return on investment, you can scale it. And so it's really build the brand through experiences, what I was focusing on. So yes, test, learn is an important part, but it's really figuring out how do I try a lot of things and figure out the ones that work to profitably grow the business. And then another contrast from marketing is that it's a lot of the things that you're trying are not just, about marketing and acquiring customers, but also how do you actually convert those customers and turn them into long-term customers. And so that's where your test learn process is happening in your onboarding. It's happening in how do I drive engagement, even in your monetization. How do I generate money from these guys? And so it's and when I say test learn, I think even that's not really that new. It's taking the scientific method that's been around for 100 or 1,000 years or somewhere in between, and it's you have ideas, and then you test those ideas, and you get learning through that testing. And where it's traditionally been around innovating, is where the scientific method comes from. Here, you're doing it around moving a particular metric.
Good. Talking about that, because I think something that really came to my mind when you were talking is that, for example, you said a lot of experiments, right? And to know what really works in the product and all those things. I have a question about that, because people believe that growth hacking is cheap. Here in this side of the world, they believe that when you they compare, and I think it's wrong, and I think that you are agree with me, that lean startup is the same to growth. It is very different, you know? So two questions about this. Do you think that growth hacking could be done from a startup that are starting from the scratch? Or there is another question that is only when you have product market fit? Because when you are doing experiments, if you are, you know, experiments cost, then you have to pay.
Sure,
you losing time, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So again, I think it comes down to what are you trying to accomplish? And so the question of product market fit, for a lot of businesses, I think, yeah, you don't want to try to grow until you have product market fit. And growth hacking is really about that test, learn to drive growth. But there's some businesses that you can't have product market fit until you grow. And so those would be like network effect businesses. So take, for example, Uber. How do you know if you have product market fit if you don't have anybody using the app? And so, and maybe I have 10 people using the app. Does that tell me I have product market fit? But I need drivers for those people. And so essentially you need to, in those businesses, you need to start doing growth hacking from really day one. But for a lot of businesses, you can stay really small and bring in 100 people at a time, and then figure out, do these 100 people love what I've built? Do they want to keep using what I've built? And once you have that validation that, okay, for enough people who try the product, it's a must-have for them, now I should really focus on getting a whole bunch of people. And so in that scenario, yes, you want to have product market fit before you do growth hacking. But some businesses, you need to grow to know if you have something. And so for those businesses, you need to do growth hacking from the beginning. Yeah.
And I want to know about more about this, because for me it's very difficult to express to companies that really think that a growth hacking is just a methodology, but it doesn't work as an execution, if you know what I mean. And I said no, because you are agree that we work in all the funnel. No, you know, in the acquisition, awareness, onboarding, and we have to know how it works in every user path in order that we can, for example, that I love the retention, that I think is where we can grow more. How we can tell to that company that growth is important for them. Any tips?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with, like, you can't tell them that growth is important to them. If they don't know that already, then it's probably hard to convince them. But
yeah, it's nice hard.
But so for me, what I really start with is, you know, what is the benefit that you've created with your business? Like, why should the world care that you've created something? And usually a founder or even a product team can say, well, you know, people have this problem and we have a great solution to that problem, and we solve this problem for them. And then I say, okay, so if you solve it for 5 people, are you going to be happy? Did you make very much impact in the world? If either you've created something important or you haven't. If you created something important, then you need to create impact. You need to reach lots of people and solve that problem for lots of people. And so once, you know, so taking them there, because I think a lot of times you get product people, for example, that look at growth almost as like a dirty word. Like, you know, I don't I don't care about growth. I just want to create a great product. But a great product that gets used by nobody isn't a great product. It's nothing. The impact happens when people use it. And if you get a lot of the right people using it, you create a lot of impact. And so that's a conversation that I focus on. Once you agree that growth is important, then it's a question of how do you actually drive the most growth? And there's still a lot of adjustments to that. People still need to say, I buy $1 million in advertising. Like, that's one way to get a lot of growth. But if everybody who responds to that advertisement comes to your website and thinks, what the hell is this thing? And they don't care, then you wasted that money. And so if you spend $1 million, figure out where, your goal is to get people who actually try the product, it solves the problem, and they love the product. And so ultimately that's what we're optimizing for. And so it's, marketing is good. Marketing can work with that. But, I think the biggest thing with growth hacking is that you want to spend money on things that you can really track well. And so if you do a TV advertisement, for example, that's much harder to track than if you do something that is digital. Now some companies are making progress where you can actually start to track TV advertising better. But, and then, and I think what it ends up working out as, though, is that for most companies and even most marketing teams, they think that the fastest way to grow this business faster is just to spend more money. Where if you can, for the same $1 million you're spending, if you can generate $4 million instead of $2 million, then that's great. And with growth hacking, you can do that. So, how do you move from a $2 million return on investment to a $4 million? One, if I double my conversion rate, that could help. But also, if I double my lifetime value of each user by improving my retention, or, improving how many people who start using it today are still using it 30 days from now. If I can double that, I'm more like, so that it turns out that there's so many ways that you can grow revenue beyond simply spending more money. Now, what's really interesting, though, is that it becomes a virtuous cycle. So if I improve metrics further down in the funnel, then suddenly if I can spend $1 million and get $4 million back, then of course I would rather spend $2 million and get $8 million back. And so what happens is that every time you make improvements in efficiency, you become more competitive. And in the world of online marketing, it's really a competition. It's everything is based on bidding. And so if you don't want to bid so that you're losing money, so you have a maximum bid you can make where you're still profitable. And so the more efficient you are at converting and retaining customers, the more competitive you are in the auctions that are competing for the attention in the beginning. And so all of these things work together. And I think for most businesses, it all starts with really trying to understand, how does it actually work in my business? And then once you understand that, which part's the most broken, and how do I focus my resources to fix that broken part? And when you fix that, everything else will work better.
Yeah, about that, Sean, once I'm very active on LinkedIn, you know what I mean? Once I put a difference between marketing and growth. And it was very funny because that post was viral, because all the marketing managers, because what I put there is that marketing in general, traditional digital marketing, we can say that, it was just about awareness and acquisition. And as I say, and you are saying right now, we are the growth manager and everything of that. We are just pay attention to all of the user paths. They even say rude words. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people get upset.
Yeah, they did, and I was like, and I was just watching, and but you are doing that, and well, what would you say to those marketing managers that cannot accept that the growth is really necessary? You know what I mean? And that, I don't know, and perhaps say that you really need it. We are not a competition. In fact, we are going to help you because we are integrated with all that. And you know what happened, especially in Spain and Latin America, that they believe that it's a competition, and it is not. Yeah. So what would you say to them in order that perhaps they can listen to this podcast that I know that they are listening, give the opportunity to grow? You know what? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think another, kind of related question to that, and I want to address them both, is, I often get the argument that, well, if you really study marketing, there's 4 P's to marketing, and one of those P's is product.
Yes.
And so, so what you're talking about really is marketing. And I think they're right. I think, like, on the intention level, we are talking about marketing, and so growth and marketing aren't different. But on the reality level, in technology, most marketers don't touch the product. Most marketers are more about advertising and bringing people to the website, and maybe they can do a little bit of funnel work at the top, but and then it's up to the product team to manage the customer from that point. And the problem is that product teams aren't focused on managing the customer and improving conversion rates. Generally, product teams have a vision, and their vision is in the form of a product roadmap. And they're thinking, I have these resources, and if I can add this feature and that feature, then maybe my product won't even need marketing because it will be so great. And so you have essentially one group that's essentially thinking, I'm one feature away from this thing not even needing marketing. And then you've got another group who marketers maybe understand. I would like to think about, what is the experience of the customer the third time they come back to use the product? But even if they want to change that, they can't. They're not trusted with that. They're not technical enough to do it. And the product team doesn't want to take directions from the marketing team. And so you have this huge area of opportunity that nobody touches. And in my experience, I'll share my experience from Log Me In. This was exactly my case at Log Me In. I was vice president of marketing, and I could spend a lot of money getting people to sign up for the product, but almost nobody who signed up for the product used the product.
Use it.
Yeah. And so, and so if they don't use it, I don't get my return on investment. We don't generate very much money, and then I can't spend very much money to bring them in. And so I was stuck on, we were growing very slow, and I was stuck on spending only a little bit of money. But when we really studied the data, we could see this is where we're losing everybody. And it was somewhere between where I was trusted as the marketing team leader and what the product team was doing. And so nobody was covering this point that meant our business was broken. And so fortunately, I shared that data with our CEO, and our CEO said, product team, I don't want you to develop any new features. Stop building the product. Marketing team, I don't want you to find any new channels. Product team and marketing team, I want you to work together and improve the number of people who sign up for this product who actually use the product. How you improve it? He didn't say use growth hacking because the word didn't exist yet. All he said was focus on improving this metric, sign up to usage. And so in 3 months, once we worked together, in 3 months, we focused on that. We improved sign up to usage by 1,000%. So because you did a mix with all your team, but also understand what the user Exactly. We understood what was broken about the product. So that's what it started with. Understand what the problem is, come up with solutions. I don't know what solution's going to work. I just have ideas of solutions. So then you have to test those solutions. And so we ran lots of tests, lots of research. And over the course of 3 months, we kept driving improvements until we had 1,000% improvement in the sign up to usage rate. So in the beginning, only 5% of people who signed up used the product. And by the end, 50% of people who signed up used the product. Then I went back and I tried I tried to do marketing just like I did before, but now with a much more efficient funnel. And so I tried all the same testing that I previously tried. Now I could scale my marketing spend to $1 million every month instead of before I was stuck at $10,000 per month. Yeah. And after 3 months, all the $1 million came back. So I had my return on investment after 3 months. I had the same $1 million that I could spend to acquire the next group of people and the next group of people. And, and that's, so
that's how you show that growth hacking is necessary.
Yeah. Right? That was like, for me, the understanding that as a marketer, I'm not trusted to touch the parts of the business that I really need to touch in order to be successful as a marketer. And so I think that comes back to your question of, is it marketing against growth, against product? No, it's, we want to create a successful business, whatever you call yourself, however you organize, whatever you call what you're doing, it doesn't matter. Like call it growthing, call it good product, call it marketing. But if you don't get new people to experience the product in a way where they love the product, you're not going to grow very fast. And if you don't grow very fast, you're not going to become a valuable business. And if you don't become a valuable business, you're wasting your time. And so why work so hard to affect only a few people? You're not going to make very much money, and you're not going to make very much impact. And so for me, I'm more driven by the impact than the money. But when you drive a lot of impact, you make a lot of money. It's just, it's normal. And so that's why CEOs, investors are usually the ones who are pushing growth hacking more than anyone, because they realize that the old way is broken. And so, but growth hacking is just a name. At the end of the day, it's about how do I have the right people experience the product in a way that they love the product. And there's so many things you need to get right to make that happen. And most of them sit in different groups that just don't spend a lot of time working together.
Good, very good. I love the idea that you just said, because we are very clear that we are not against the marketing, the sales. I think what we try to do is that we can be together in order to become a valuable company and see how to grow. That's the idea.
Yeah. So when I work with companies, for example, that's the first thing that I do is I get everybody in the company, not the growth team. I get the whole company together, and I say, let's look at the customer experience from top to bottom, and let's together analyze that. Let's together think about the value we're trying to create for customers, and how do we all work together to make that happen? And then we get into like the more details of the test learn process and the data and what each team should be doing. But we start with that common shared goal that everyone should care about in the whole company.
Something that I really like about that you said, you can call it a growth hacking, growth marketing, growth Tesla approach. It's something funny that happened in Latin America and Spain, that when you say growth hacking, people believe something, the word of hacking, it means hacker. And it's very, I don't know, it's not
like,
nice.
Yeah, it's
so
like tricky,
they change it.
Tricky growth.
Yeah. Then my question about this, why did you decide growth hacking first? And then why do you believe, or how can we change the mindset of that people? Or it's good that they put it growth marketing, because some people just name it growth, growth marketing.
Yeah.
And when, for example, in Colombia and in Spain, that some clients I say growth hacking, they, in fact, a very good, funny story. One guy from LinkedIn approached me and he said to me, can you hack a credit card from the United States? And I say, I don't do that. I don't do that. Yeah. And then, you know what I mean? And it was very funny. I was like, it's funny. It's
yeah, but it just shows the confusion that's created. Yeah. So I mean, the way that at the time when I came up with the term, Facebook was really good at growth, and the hacker culture was a Silicon Valley kind of term. And in fact, Facebook is still the address for Facebook is still one hacker way. So it's hacker is, and then at the same time, you really had this like life hacks was a very popular phrase. In fact, life hacker was a very popular website, and not even for technical people, but it's just clever ways to accomplish a goal was kind of what life hacker was about. And so for me, and even, the biggest startup, kind of community that was out there coming out of Y Combinator was Hacker News. And so, I think, my book is in 16 languages. It's around the world. So obviously, different cultures are going to react differently to the words, but probably where some of the most negative impressions of growth hacking is actually now in Silicon Valley, because Silicon Valley is like so much like, what's cool today, what's cool tomorrow. They're so caught up in like trends and staying on top of stuff. But, at the end of the day, how companies grow is actually not that different from 100 years ago. Like a potential customer thinks about the business, and then they need to be compelled or motivated to take action. And then somehow they have an experience that makes them either say, I love this, or I don't care about this. And it's just with digital, we can track that better. And when we can track it, we can improve it. And so so I don't regret calling it growth hacking, because my goal was to get people to rethink how they're approaching growth, because most businesses, even today, approach growth in a very bad way, in a way that means that they're not helping nearly as many customers as they could. And so if I called it just proper growth or even growth marketing, I think it would be boring enough. So it's less controversial, but nobody would notice. And so by calling it growth hacking, at least it causes people, like for a marketer, the worst thing in the world is not to be noticed. If you can trigger emotion, whether that's the emotion of love or the emotion of hate, you have a good start. And the word growth hacking triggers lots of hate and lots of love. And so I'm happy that I picked that name, because I think it got a lot more attention, that there's a much better way to drive growth in businesses.
Yes, for sure. I think that was very clever. That was good. I have a question about this. Do you think growth is only for digital products?
No, I think digital products benefit from, as I said, when it's digital, you can track it. When you track it, you can improve it. But
could it be possible for traditional marketing, companies?
I think that the principles apply everywhere. It's just that the tracking is going to be more difficult. But the idea, really, the concept behind growth hacking is, how do I improve the most important parts of the business that are going to help me grow? And so all businesses have areas of the business that can be improved. And it's just tracking those improvements when it's not digital is going to be a lot harder. But I'll give you an example. When I was at LogMeIn, over time, we started to do a lot more kind of business to business opportunities on one of our products. And so we started to go to trade shows. And so at the trade shows, it's not digital, right? It's just people walking around. And so what I did initially was I said, okay, what metric are we trying to optimize for? We're trying to optimize for qualified prospects that we talk to. And so how do we improve the qualified prospects? What's going to bring them in? So we experimented with signage, but we also, the same way that you onboard into a website, we onboarded into the booth. Like we thought, okay, if I'm walking from this direction, what do I see? Why would I go in this booth? If I'm walking from this direction, what do I see? Why would I go into this booth? We put the chairs on the inside of the booth and nobody sits in them. We put the chairs on the outside of the booth. It's a small commitment. People get tired, they sit down, we can start talking to them. Yeah. So all these experiments that ultimately lead to more qualified conversations, which leads to more. So it's a funnel, it's onboarding, but it's all, and so that a lot of these things are guesses, but they're guesses that are about having empathy for the potential customer and trying to look at it through their eyes and think, we're not perfect. No one's ever perfect in digital or in non-digital. So if we're not perfect, it means we can improve. And it's really then the question of how do we improve? What do we improve? And so I'll give you another example that will resonate very well with Latin Americans. It's I used it when coaching my daughter's soccer team. So football, as you call it in most of the rest of the world. And so again, obviously the easy metric to say is I'm gonna optimize for goals, but there's not enough data there. So I optimize for shots on goal. So kind of up the funnel from there, and then I experimented, and I was kind of crazy with it, but I took my team and then every team we played and documented what are the lineups that I'm using. And then I experimented like crazy. Kids who had only ever played attackers, I'm going to try them at defense. And I'm going to try this kid next to this kid. So the strong kid next to the kid, but maybe not as good. And how do they work together? And then every combination, I'm tracking shots on goal against us, shots on goal that we take, and then making adjustments. And so that adjust, test, looking at the data. By the end of that season, we outscored our opponents by, 50 to 3 or something. Yeah. We won everything. We won. And, all the other coaches, all they did was they yell at the kids. And for me, I could smile and be, supportive of the kids, but it was in the data and the experimentation that I learned this kid who's never played in the back actually does much better in the back because she has really good instincts, really good protective instincts, and she will not let a ball get past her because her character doesn't allow that. And so you don't learn these things without experimentation. So those are two examples that are not digital examples,
but very good examples. Just to make it to the end, what advice can you give to the people from Latin America and Spain about growth? The people who really don't believe in growth, what advice can you give to them? Do growth? Or you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think usually they're getting caught up in the word growth, or the word growth hacking. I just, to me, I start with the goals. What are you trying to accomplish? What does success look like in this business? And how do we drive more success? And, and I think if you approach it that way, then it's really hard to argue against it, unless somebody says, I really want to just stay small, like if they want to stay small, then maybe growth hacking is not for them. But if they actually have created something that's important that the world needs, then they should be interested in figuring out how to get the world to experience it more, benefit from it more. And then, but at the same time, building a viable business. You can get a lot of people to experience it if you don't care about making any money, or you don't care about if you can lose a whole bunch of money. But if you want to be able to do it in a way you stay in business, then you're constrained by economics and efficiency. But it's, I want to reach lots of people. I want to improve the lives of lots of people, and I need to do it in a way that's efficient. And that's ultimately, that's where, who cares what you call it? It's about a process that has been around for hundreds of years, which is, I'm going to come up with ideas to make things better, and I'm going to test those ideas, and I'm going to look at the data and see if the idea actually did make it better. If it didn't, that's okay. I actually learned something. And so growth hacking then is just simply a process to manage that, a process to make that much more efficient and more effective.
I have a question that just came to my mind, Sean, and that's happened to me right now because I have a client. This client is not doing that, but some of the people that talk to me is mostly B2B companies. You know what I mean? And B2B companies, I don't know why do they think that growth is lead generation, just the acquisition, because the word growth means in Spain, crecer, growth, you know what I mean? So, they think that, for example, in B2B, the curve of getting a client or to become a client is a long term sometimes, and it's not the same as B2B as B2C business. Why do you think that happens?
I think because people are resistant to change. And that's the lens that B2B has always been looked at, is that if I can generate leads and let's say I have more leads than I have salespeople, it's easy. Then I'll just add salespeople. And so the whole lens they look at their business is in lead gen, qualified lead gen, however they want to look at it. But I think what's interesting is to start to say, is it really just about leads, or, you're getting into this idea more of product qualified leads now with product-led growth, and product-led growth is just another form of growth hacking, but it's like what we're trying to do here is deliver experiences, and leads are not experiences. And so the old model is that you generate a lead so that a salesperson can convince them to buy. But what's more important is that instead of generating a lead, why don't I create an experience that makes the person say, now I'm not trying to convince, somebody already is convinced by the benefit that they got from that experience. And so obviously experiences are really important to consumer businesses, but they're important to business to business as well. And so I think one of the best companies to look at for that is just the transition that HubSpot has made. HubSpot started with very much of a lead gen kind of viewpoint. They looked at, okay, content marketing is what will drive qualified leads. And then now a salesperson will still use those qualified leads to make the sale. But one day HubSpot decided, we're going to make a free version of every one of our products. And instead of content that gets them excited about the product, let the product get them excited about the product. And so as soon as they did that, as soon as I saw what they were doing, I invested in the company. I said, now they get it. Now they're really doing it well. And I even sent the founder a note and said, I've just invested in the company. What you're doing is brilliant. That was in like maybe 4 years ago, 3 years, but the stock is up more than 1,000% since they made that shift. So they were growing, but as soon as they made that shift, the value of the business shot way up, because it just scales so much better than just trying to grow leads and grow salespeople. Because what happens, churn, as we know in growth, is like a really, especially for SaaS businesses, is a really bad thing. When my customers leave, my SaaS business doesn't grow very well. But in a traditional B2B sales model, you have two churns you need to worry about: salesperson churn and customer churn. And
yes,
when you bring a new salesperson in to replace the salesperson who just left, it takes them several months to become efficient. And then someone else leaves. So both of those are constraining your growth. But if you can build an engine where your best salesperson is your product, then it's simply, you can still have salespeople in that model, but at that point, the salespeople are really there more as customer success people of just helping people get more value out of the product and guide them toward the sale. But I think it just changes the nature of things. And so that's the biggest thing we're looking at here, is just like, what really are all the things that matter to growth? And just because traditionally we're organized around lead gen or build awareness, how could we rethink how we organize and arrange ourselves as a team to maximize all of the opportunities to improve growth? And I think when you do that, that's why you see these record-setting companies in terms of the amount of growth that's happened in the last 5 years, and some of the fastest growing companies in the world. It's because you found these much more scalable systems for driving and managing that growth.
Good. Okay, Sean, we are going to start with the question that some of the growth managers from Colombia, Mexico, Spain, they want to ask you. So I'm going to do it quickly. I know, because you are a busy guy. So, for example, Julio Garcia Becerra, co-founder and head of growth of a trend company here in Spain, in Barcelona, he would like to know what will it be the best channel to bring customer acquisition equal to lifetime value? Because, for example, they have a problem about the duplication, I don't know, for different attributions, you know? Is there anything we can assure that we are doing a very good customer attribution on those channels?
Yeah, I mean, attribution is always confusing. I think if I go back to the root of that question, which is, how do I manage customer acquisition costs and lifetime value, and make sure that my acquisition cost is less than my lifetime value? You have two levers there, right? You can increase your lifetime value, or you can try to decrease your customer acquisition cost. The truth is, customer acquisition cost almost never decreases, because more and more competition in the channels. So maybe you find a new channel, but there's not going to be very much scale there. So really, your bigger lever is lifetime value. And so lifetime value, and when is something grouped in customer acquisition and when is something grouped in lifetime value is another question. Like, is it only after they become a customer that then lifetime value goes on there? So you can reduce your customer acquisition costs by improving funnel conversion rate, but it's another way to look at it is, what's the revenue per prospect to my website? And if you do revenue per prospect, then you're going to be kind of thinking of lifetime value more on a higher funnel metric. But so for me, I'm really just focused on how do I build efficiency through every touch point where I have a more direct relationship with the customer. Once you're in the channels, it's just so hyper competitive that you have to take advantage of each step in that funnel is your almost monopoly opportunity to improve efficiency. So, but from an attribution side, there's attribution models that every company is absolutely different from every other company on the attribution model side. So like, I can't really address that for any company without really digging into the scenario.
I love this question, and it's a tricky question. From Ubaldo Herbas from Barcelona to Spain. He's a very famous growth manager here. What weaknesses do you think growth hacking has? That's a tricky question.
Yeah, no, I think there's I wouldn't necessarily say weaknesses. I would say challenges. There's a lot of challenges with growth hacking. But I think if there's a weakness, it's usually because somebody's doing it wrong. It's like I'm calling it growth hacking, but what I'm really doing is just a whole bunch of spam, or I'm tricking users, and all of those are short-term focus. So growth hacking done right is long-term focus. Growth, ultimately, if you're doing growth hacking correctly, you should be thinking about, how do I acquire long-term retained customers? And then you realize that a lot of those tricks don't really help. What helps is fixing confusing parts in your funnel, understanding what makes people nervous about your product before they try it, and addressing those issues. And so it's a lot of just like deep understanding and problem solving. And but I would say the biggest challenge to growth hacking, if I interpret that question a little bit differently, is that one growth hacker will not be very effective. If the rest of the company doesn't understand and support the idea that
the mindset, right?
Yeah, that all parts of the business, there's a better way to do everything in the business, and testing is how you figure out those better ways. Then, like, if they don't buy that, then one person will just argue one test at a time, and they're just not going to make very much impact. And so people need to buy into the idea that testing is important. And then another thing that's maybe often overlooked is that if everyone thinks the business grows for different reasons, then it's really hard to coordinate efforts cross-functionally. So I think you need to take the time for everyone in the company to get this onto the same page on what's important to growth in this business. How does this business really grow? And so I spend a lot of time doing that in workshops with companies, because like without that, you get in trouble. And so I'm doing a workshop with a team in Turkey all next week, for example.
Okay, that's good. Another question is from Colombia. Maria Jose Ramos Rat, she's a chief growth officer from a Y Combinator company named FitHub. Cool. Yes, what board rate you should think people must have in a launch and in a stabilized city?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, what bar rate? I think it's chart rate. I don't know why she put like that, but what bar rate you should think people must have in a launch when they are launching a product in a stabilized city? Is there a percentage? That what I'm trying to understand about this question is that she wants to know what is the percentage that people have, or the product must have when you are launching a product for the first time ever.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm assuming, if I'm interpreting the question right, that So one, I don't really think about launch for what it's worth. I think about, can this business grow or can it not grow? And so to me, it's like scale or not scale. And so when is a business ready to try to grow? When is a business ready to try to scale? And for that's really the product market fit question, which essentially says,
yeah, I was thinking about that too.
I need to be able to retain at least some of the people who try the product. If everyone who tries the product stops using it, growth will be impossible long-term, unless it's a product that is really just, a short-term use product, like, maybe a dating app that, once you've successfully made the match that people leave, like, okay, you can manage that on a customer acquisition to lifetime value kind of cost and grow those businesses. But most businesses today are about, I'm acquiring customers to retain customers. And if I can't retain any customers, I should not try to grow that business. And so that's where retention cohorts are important. And you would have, if you've been doing the Go Practice course, you would have seen a lot about retention cohorts. And so that's where you essentially want to get to a point. You're never going to keep 100% of the people who try the product, but you want to be able to know that at a certain point, when I get down to 30% of the people who tried the product, those people are still using the product, and they're still going to be using the product 6 months from now. And so you get this like flattening out. And if you can get that flattening out of retention cohorts, that's when you can scale and grow that product. So again, I may be understanding that question, not the way she intended it, but hopefully that answer is still helpful.
Yeah, I hope she can understand. I understand because I thought that it was also about a product market fit and all those things.
Yeah.
And the last question comes from Jose Munoz Salvatierra. He's a CMO of a very important company in Barcelona too, Grow Pro. And this is very, I don't know, I have never heard about this title, but perhaps you can. What do you think of the brand's performance concept?
One more time, brand performance?
Brand performance. This is the first time that I ever heard.
I don't think I've heard it either, unless I'm just not hearing it right, but I don't think I've heard it.
Yeah, a brand performance. You know what I mean? I think it's something about performance plus brand.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like a merged brand performance. So yeah, but what it's, and then it also makes me think like performance marketing plus brand. So at least the benefit of performance marketing is that what you're trying to do with performance marketing is measure the result that marketing actually does for you. And so I think that's a really good start, but anyone who does performance marketing, if they really think about it long-term, they're going to realize that they're only successful if they can have the rest of the team driving the improvements in the funnel that will allow them to drive the return on investment they need to be successful. And so if, again, I'm assuming, like I'm interpreting what brand performance might be, that again, I'll give you a great example. When I was at DROPBOX, we spent nothing on awareness. We spent nothing trying to build awareness. Everything that we did was about getting people to use the product in a profitable, like to spend less than it costs than the value of the people to use the product. And so we did most of that by just optimizing. When you get people to share files and then the person on the other side comes in and signs up. So just optimizing all of these different onboarding paths, eventually offering the incentivized referral system, but everything was about let's not spend more money than we're generating on each person. And so we built this really efficient engine, got to millions of users really quickly. And it was amazing to me that within a year of when we started, and I started right at the beginning when DROPBOX first publicly launched, the week DROPBOX publicly launched was when I started. Within 1 year, I went to Japan, and I'd already worked on several businesses. And so they asked me to list some of the businesses that I've worked on. And then finally, I was like, and I've worked on this little product, you've probably never heard of it, called DROPBOX. And the whole room was like, wow, DROPBOX, we love DROPBOX. And we never did anything to reach people in Japan. It was just this product-led growth approach it had spread to Japan that quickly and created that many fans. So we had this incredible awareness that would have been nearly impossible on any startup budget if we'd approached it any other way. So I think that the brand performance kind of side of things is best served by delivering great experiences to as many people as possible in a cost-effective way.
Yeah, good. And finally, the end, because the best is in the end. We want to talk about Go Practice. I am a student there. You already know. And one thing that really made myself to do this course, because I think is one of the best that I have done, is because I read an article that you have write, and it was the only effective way to learn.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes that you put there is that very few people have what it takes to learn how to effectively and sustainably drive growth for high potential products. But you realize that and the conclusion that you got is that after many years of trying to teach growth, you started with sharing growth insights through blogging, then try offering online video courses, and even co-author Hacking Growth and leading a book that everybody knows. But people really understand what really growth roles are. So you created a course that I think is good. Is a simulator, because in fact in that article say that simulators, when you want to learn how to pilot an airplane, they do simulations.
Right. So, you're not gonna read a book and then suddenly start flying a plane and realize you don't know how and crash.
So tell me, I think because of my experience is the best course, because you teach, and in fact I recommend this course, Go Practice .io, that because I have learned so many things that is not theoretical, you practice, you know what I mean? So what can you say about this course, and how you can recommend it for people that wants to learn growth?
Yeah, so it's really, as you said, it gives you the experience. I think what's unique about it is, particularly for growth, data is so important in growth. You can't improve what you don't measure, and growth is all about driving improvement. And so that's one of the biggest challenges with most courses is you could learn how to use a data product, but it's not going to teach you how to ask the right questions. So you can get the data, but if you're asking the wrong questions, who cares if you can get the data? And so I think what's unique about this course is that you are getting the experience of actually growing a business, an imaginary business, but you're really working with live data that's in Amplitude, and it changes week to week. The data in the system changes. And so you really get the full experience of, okay, here's all the new things that have happened. What do you do now? Here, and being able to ask those questions and then get the immediate feedback in the course too, that tells you if you made the right decision or not. And then obviously, as you know, my teacher on the program is Oleg Yakubenkov, and he's a really good data guy. And again, my background is marketing. His background is product and data. He was a data scientist at Facebook. So he's really good on data, really good in product. He's been a product manager as well. And so I think that's it gives you that rounded skill set and experience to actually be good at growth. And it's a super powerful skill. If you can be good at it, you can drive a lot of impact and help a lot of companies be super successful.
Good. In fact, I want to tell you that when you are in Go Practice, one of the things that I like the most is, like Sean said, is that we can even talk to you. We have workshops that you already recorded, and also that recorders are solve the problems that we just came when we are doing this simulator course. And I think if we compare, I think it's good because you can understand as a product manager, as a CMO, because they put you in that position that you can learn. And I think if people can do a growth hacking course, that it will be better to become a growth hacker. This Go Practice is a very good example where you can learn. So Sean, just give an invitation to people that go to Go Practice and learn, because so many people ask me, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't recommend anyone. From now on, I'm just going to recommend Go Practice, because I think
thank you,
I have the experience, because I think it's what we are talking about.
Yeah.
You talk about the experience.